Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining today's session. My name is Shanice. I'm a Career and Student Success Advisor here at Humber. And I will be introducing our presenters today. So for today's session, we have Shiyu Zhang, Sanjay Kumar, and Huang Du, who are going to be talking about navigating immigration challenges for international students. And so I'll pass it over to our International Student Advisor team to start the presentation today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So before we begin, I just want to quickly go over today's agenda item. So my name is Shiyue, and I'll start us off. So for today's presentation, we really want to look at case studies navigating certain immigration policy changes, as well as how it really impacts students at an individual level. We'll talk about the policies, the potential concerns with individual circumstances, and some of the action items that we can do or strategies we can implement to support our students around these immigration issues. And of course, at the end of our presentation, we'll provide our overall recommendation, support for advisors or anyone who is providing advising to students. So to begin, I will start the land acknowledgement. Humber College is located within the traditional and treaty land of Mississauga of the Credit, known as the Dobigog, the place of the elders in Michi-Saki language. The region is uniquely situated along Humber River watershed, which historically provided an integral connection for Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Wendat people between the Ontario Lakeshore and the Lake Simcoe Georgian Bay region. Now home to people of numerous nations, Etobicoke continues to provide a vital source of interconnection for all. So my colleague Juan will start us off in the first section, and I just want to quickly mention is that for the purpose of today's presentation, all the cases are simplified from actual real-life scenarios to help improve understanding on how complicated, intricate student situations may be at individual level. So over to you, Huang.
Okay. Thanks, Shui. So, hi everyone. My name is Humber. I'm an international student advisor and immigration specialist. So first, I was mentioning about like the authorized leave, right, which is one of the thing that we usually see when we're working with the student. So I was started first with the current IRCC requirement. So with the government, with IRCC, they're saying that if the student want to take a leave from their study while they are studying in Canada, they are allowed to do so. However, for the purpose of assessing if a student is actively pursuing their study or not, any leave taken from their program in Canada should not exceed 150 days from the date the leave commenced and must be authorized by their DLI. So for 150 days, about 5 months. So we usually take it at one semester so that it's easier to calculate. And keep in mind that any leave must be authorized by and their DLI, which is Humber in this case. So the second thing from IRCC regarding authorized leave is that working on off campus and not authorized during any authorized leave period. IRCC gave an example for reason of leave just as a medical, pregnancy, family emergency, death or serious illness of a family member, change in program study, dismissal or suspension, postpone program start date. Here are the examples that they're given. However, the DLI are allowed to add whatever reason that they want for authorized leave, as long as they can provide a reasonable explanation for that. So basing on that information from IRCC, Humber's authorized leave policy can be granted for several situations. It was a death of family member, dismissal or suspension from program, family emergency, Humber author approved leave, medical, pregnancy, maternity, serious illness of a family member. In terms of Humber approved leave, right now we approve the leave for the student which will have to do military in their home country or in the cases that where no core course are offered. So here are the authorized leave process. First, students that want to take an authorized leave will need to talk with the ISA, our International Student Advisor team, so usually referred to as ISA. So first, student would need to talk with an ISA team. It can start it with the student come directly to our ISA team, or they are referred to our ISA team from their program coordinator, professor, Korean student success advisor. So when they're talking with us, they will need to provide the document to prove that they are eligible for the authorized leave. Once we review the document, we will contact the program coordinator, career and student success advisor for approval and for an updated academic plan. In the third step, we will go back to the student, discuss possible immigration impact if the student decided to take a leave in that semester. And after that, if student accept all the risks, we will create staff to record an authorized leave, issue authorized leave letter to the student, together with all the other documents that student might need during those time. So if you can see it over here, in the past, the authorized leave started with the program coordinator. So student will have to talk with program coordinator, Korean student success advisor. Student will have to talk with ISA. And then in the end of the day, our ISA team only review the document and issue the document. However, we find that it takes more time because immigration is complicated. There might be some missing communication along the way. So we decided to take a step forward. So everything started with the student contact with our ISA team. Our ISA team will actively doing all the thing and issue the document to the student. Yeah, so now I'm going to the real life case scenario. This is a case that if you are in interior decorating, you probably have been talking with me a lot regarding these cases. So we have a case of the student George in this case was enrolled in interior decorating diploma from fall 2023. He was supposed to graduate by winter 2025, which is the last semester here. However, he failed one course, and these courses only offered in the winter semester. So in this case is here, he will not have any course in the summer 25, fall 25, and he only have one course that he can take in the winter 2026 to graduate. His study permit will expire on July 30th, 2025, right? So I've been cutting a bit up here and there, just put the main point over here to illustrate for the authorized leave case scenario over here. So when we reviewing the case, our concerns and consideration, it would be the gap in summer 25 and fall 25, which will negatively impact his immigration situation. So it will, in terms of the study permit, the rule from the government is that you have to actively pursue your study by not having a gap of more than one semester. So this is a gap of 2 semesters. The second point is regarding the recent study permit, the recent change in the study permit policy. So if students stop studying at an institution named in their study permit, not because of their complete their program, study permit automatically expired at that point, right? Another point over here that we have to worry about is the PGWP eligibility. So in these cases here, our concern are regarding the gap of 2 semesters. Study permit expired in July 2025. His last semester would be in winter 2026. So he does not have enough study permit to come. He needs to apply for the study permit extension. And the last point is that gap of 2 semesters will make him ineligible to apply for post-graduation work permit then. So after student George come to talk with me, I will have to talk with the program coordinator and Korean student success advisor. And what I would need to get from them is that whether there's any supplementary exam or assignment to boost the grade, whether there's any other alternative course that they can take from Humber instead of that core course. If not, then what other courses the student can take in the fall 2025? And if the student is eligible for the rebound program or not, right? So here is what we did in that case. First, we contact the program coordinator, career and student success advisor for information regarding possible remedy and updated academic plan. So when we were confirmed that no, that course is only offering in the winter 2026, no other alternative course, student already is not allowed to take any supplementary exam or assignment to boost their to boost her GPA, his GPA. So in these cases here, our solution would be we can give the student an authorized leave for summer 2025. So if you remember that at the beginning, if there is no course that student can take in that semester, that's a ground that we can give the student authorized leave at Humber. So because of that, student can have authorized leave for the summer 2025. And then to remain eligible for post-graduation work permit, he will have to be full-time for the fall 2025. And then he can also take the last course in winter 2026. So just go back for the PGWP eligibility a little bit. I think my colleague Shiwei will mention about that in more detail in her part though. But one of the reason for the rule, general rule for PGWP is that you have to be full-time all semester. If you ever be part-time, it can only be in the last semester or during the schedule break. So in these cases here, we can give an authorized leave for the summer 25, but authorized leave can only for one semester. So student will have to go back to be full-time for the fall 2025. So in these cases here, with the updated academic plan that we got from program coordinator and career and student success advisor, we can tell the student either they can take the course that they already take before to increase their GPA, or they can take just general education or elective course. But they have to remain full-time in the fall 2025 if they want to remain eligible for PGWP. In winter 2026, that's the last course, last semester, so it's okay for them to be part-time then. In this case, student will also be informed that they will have to apply for the study permit extension because they don't have enough time in their study permit to complete the last course in winter 2026. So after that, I will issue the authorized leave letter to the student, submit staff to request registrar office to record the break then. And then after that, we will work with the student to issue several documents that they will need to apply for their study permit extension, timeline for study permit extension. And we will also explain the condition for authorized leave as well. Another note here is that student will have the break in the summer, right? For most students, they consider that's a scheduled break. But in this case here, this is not the scheduled break. So during this time, they are not allowed to work. Okay, so I think that's it for the unauthorized leave. I think I just saw one question in the Q&A though. So can student be eligible for authorized leave more than once during their time at Humber? Yes, they can be eligible for. There is no rule regarding how many authorized leave student can take during their time. But there's two things that we should keep in mind. One, Humber can only give authorized leave for the maximum of one term, right? Like in these cases here, we can only give an authorized leave for the summer student. We cannot give the authorized leave in the fall 2025, though. That's one point. The second point is that when we give authorized leave, we still need to make sure that student keep the condition in their study permit, which is to showing that they actively pursued their study. So if we give lots of authorized leave for the student, then we have to back up with an explanation why students have so much gap during the break is there, right? And if we cannot provide reasonable or student cannot provide reasonable explanation about that, they will be questioned whether they keep the condition in their study permit or not. I can give another example over here. For example, we have several cases of the student that take an authorized leave because of medical illness. Student need to take a surgery, so the surgery would be it requires them to be like off for like 2 semesters. So we can give an authorized leave for the first semester. In the second semester, student will have to explain the reason why they are not allowed to go back to study then, right? Or another example, student taken like we usually say this is not a good example, but in real life this thing happen. Student take an authorized leave because of medical illness in the summer, go back to study in the fall. Winter next year, they got another accident. So we can put them on authorized leave again, right? But again, they still need to back up and provide information regarding like to make sure that they are reasonable. Okay, thank you, right? So I don't see any other question in the chat box right now. So if you have any question, you're welcome to just type it in the chat box and we're trying to answer it along the way. And I think right now I will hand it over to my colleague Sanjay, who will continue with the next slide, which is about like required to withdraw. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Sanjay, and I'm going to discuss with you required to withdraw conditions. And this condition happens after every semester, and it's very important for us to know what we can do for a student, how we can support the student during their required to withdraw period. Before we move on that, let's see for current IRCC requirement. Humber submits a designated learning institution compliance report to IRCC during fall and winter semester. It is a very important report which we submit, and we report the status of each student in the report which goes to IRCC. And the report is technically the list of student is sent to us by our IRCC, and we just let them know the status. When we report the status, falling are considered as an adverse enrollment status, and as a result, they are indicator of non-compliance. First is an academic suspension, no longer registered or enrolled, no show, unknown or no records. So once we record the student status based on if student is registered, we will say full-time registered. Otherwise, we will see what is the condition which will define student more precisely, and we will put that condition, that status on DLI report. Current IRCC requirement for a study permit holder, they have to maintain certain conditions. First condition is, as Hong told you before, they shall enroll in a designated learning institution that is named on their permit and remain enrolled until they complete their studies. There is an exception in this rule. One is the authorized leave, or another one is the scheduled break. If you leave those two periods, students have to enroll during their studies. For example, a student comes to us in January, he attends January semester, he attends then summer semester, he's in a scheduled break in the fall, which we give him the letter and that break is recorded, and then he completes his next 2 semesters and goes out, and that works well. Or if have any emergency, and then they can have a break. They shall actively pursue their course or program of study. While IRCC require the student to show reasonable progression in their study. If you are continuously failing in your courses, and then there is a problem. So they should actively pursue their courses. If they hopefully attend the classes, then they will move forward. If in In these circumstances, we have the compliance investigation are currently taking place. It is not a very big number, but they are still coming. Compliance investigation are generally for the potentially non-compliant international student. A study permit holder is issued a letter which we call a procedural fairness opportunity, where IRCC asks them the questions, they ask the documentations, they ask variety of things. It depends upon the person, it depends upon the letter, and it depends upon the what is the history of the student with IRCC. Student required to withdraw student are reported as an academic suspension. An academic suspension is an adverse condition. So will every student will get procedural fairness letter? No, we cannot say. Who is going to get the procedural fairness letter? We don't know that. It's a random pick. Anybody can get it. Required to withdraw. We have some Humber policies change in required to withdraw. Before fall 2024, if you are required to withdraw, you are you have to sit out of your program for 2 consecutive semesters. After that, you can return to the same program or you can change your program. After fall 2024, there is a change in the policy. When the students are in the required to withdraw, number one is in the first, if you are a first semester student, you are not required to sit out of the out only for an you can just have no don't have to sit out. If you fail in a semester, you can enroll in the next semester either in the same program or a different program. But if you are a second semester student or upward and you are required to withdraw, you have to sit out for a 1 semester, which is for international student is good. Required to withdraw is never good, but if they are somehow required to withdraw, it is a good because this is a 1 semester and we can cover that 1 semester. When it was 2 semester, it's very hard for us to cover 2 semester, and in that before fall 2024, we are not able to issue any support letter to the student, but now we can issue support letter to the student for their required to during the required to withdraw period. And here we have a case scenario. Mary was enrolled in a fashion art and business program in winter 2024. As of winter 2025, the student is required to withdraw based on academic performance. However, the faculty recommended a rebound program for student. So in this scenario, our potential concerns are if the student decided to enroll for a rebound program, they will not be able to work. Second concern is if the student decided not to enroll in a rebound program, they will they will be unable to work and their enrollment status will be reported as academic suspension. An academic suspension is considered as an adverse enrollment status and it may result in a compliance investigation. So it can come, it cannot come, but the chances is it will come. And potential impact on the study permit. Potential impact on the study permit depends upon the study permit when the study permit is expiring. And I'll explain you a little bit more what will be the impact on the study permit. So what is the recommendation and action step we take? First, we recommend the student to the rebound program. If the student is not willing to attend, we confirm and document the student decision. If he is not willing to take a rebound program, we generally let the program coordinator know that student is not willing to take the program. And second is confirm that with the program coordinator the reason of RTW status, because RO registration report RTW status is not the reason is not there. Student can be RTW as a result of academic suspension and as a result of academic misconduct. So we try to confirm from the program coordinator that the student is RTW because of academic suspension, not because of academic misconduct. If it is an academic misconduct, we cannot support the student. Third is we ask the student whether they would like to remain in the same program or transfer to different program. If they like to remain in this program, that's fine. If they like to transfer into a different program, we ask them to fill a contact form so their program can be changed when they return. Humber will issue a support letter to the student for RTW period, which can be used for study permit extension and postgraduate work permit applications. We can use the letter because when student will submit the transcript will show the gap of a semester. And we student need to explain why that gap is. That's why we issue the support letter. We give a student support letter, but it doesn't mean the compliance investigation won't be there. If the compliance investigation come, they can use that letter. If they ask for an additional document, student can come to us. There will be no impact on student study permit as long as student can resume the study during the following academic semester. If you are RTW from, like in the case scenario, student was RTW as of winter 2025, student is not in school in summer, now the student is registered for fall, no impact on the study permit. But we need to see the study permit expiring date. If the study permit is expiring, then we need encourage the student to apply for the study permit as early as he can because processing time is very long. Inform the student they are not allowed to work. Doesn't matter authorized leave, whether authorized leave or required to withdraw status when you are not in the school, student is not allowed to work at all. Any questions regarding RTW status? I don't think so. Any question? If you have any question, feel free to type in the chat and now I'll hand over to Yushi.
Thank you. Before we move on to that session, I actually have a question for Huang and Sanjay regarding the two pieces. So for first question is clearly that just to emphasize the point that for authorized leave and academic suspension, both scenarios student cannot work. So would you be able to just clarify, are they the same? And the reasoning why they both cannot work, is it because IRCC sees them the same, or is it even though they are two different categories?
I'll try to explain and Hong see if I leave anything. Technically situations, if you go by IRCC rules and we say authorized leave, IRCC consider academic suspension as an authorized leave. But it in the authorized leave we have two category. One is adverse and one is non-adverse. What Huang was explaining, medical leaves, they're all non-adverse condition. So possibility of getting a compliance investigation is very rare. But in the case what I am explaining RTW, they are all adverse condition and chances of getting in compliance is maximum. So although both are authorized leave and that's why the condition of non-working is in both the condition, but only thing is it depends upon whether it's an adverse condition or a non-adverse condition.
Thank you so much, Sanjay. I think that's a very valid point because although both categories are authorized leave, right? When it's an adverse condition, which is RTW is, there may be further compliance investigation against the student later on in the future, which may affect their ability to study and continue to progress. So thank you so much for clarifying that. Is there any other question from the audience in the chat before we move on to the next section?
No, I don't think we have any question. Oh, yeah, Jasmine just I think Jasmine has a question there. Yeah, go
Hi,
ahead,
I
Jasmine.
have just a
Hey.
quick question. I am wondering about in the case of the last example, why a student wouldn't pursue the rebound program.
I will answer that question.
Okay, thank you.
Number one, most of the student don't think they fail because they are not doing good enough. And the reality is, this is the reason they fail. For international student, attending a rebound program is $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
10th and another additional condition is they are not working. So whether I attend a rebound program or I don't attend a rebound program, I'm not working. That's similar in both the case. If I'm
Mm,
attending a rebound, I'm paying $10,000. So
got it.
student, that this is the main reason the student, but there are very few examples where students do attend a rebound program.
Mm,
But that number is very few, and the main reason for that is the money.
got it. Okay. Thank you, Sanjay.
Yeah.
So,
And
so Jasmine, sorry, I just want to add a little bit to that, right? So, the rebound program policy, we actually have it a while ago before we implemented the new policy regarding that we can give authorized leave for the student who is in required to withdraw situation. So, before
Mm-hmm.
rebound is the only option for the student if they want to keep the condition in their study permit and remain eligible for post-graduation work permit. However, like the RTW, the authorized leave for RTW is a very new policy that we implemented recently. So with the new
Mm-hmm.
one, authorized leave for RTW seems to be better to the student though. But in the past, I do understand that we all refer the student to rebound if they want to keep their condition though. Okay?
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Back to you, Shiwei. Yeah.
perfect. So again, if there's any questions that come up throughout the presentation, feel free to type in the chat. We have one more scenario and of course one more Q&A for the audience as well. So really for the last section of the presentation is we really want to tie things together. And we're looking at program changes and how that impact international students' overall post-graduation work permit eligibility. And there are many reasons or situations when students could change their program. One example is for example linked to required to withdraw status, right? Sometimes students are academic unsuccessful because they might not be in the right program. They might select a program for reasons such as recommendation by their agent, recommendation by their family, or based on the fact that they may think it's easier for them to apply for permanent residency in the future. But after starting a program, they may realize, okay, this program is not right for me, and they're academic unsuccessful due to that misalignment. When that happens, students may decide to change their program. They may withdraw and change their program before the RTW. They may choose to change their program after the RTW. So often, changes, may occur during any point of the student's academic journey at the institution. And many, I believe, and our colleagues are probably having conversations with our students regarding that. But of course, with many of the government policy changes, that's something you may have heard over the last year or so, the numerous changes can impact students in many ways. It could be program changes, and it's even more important to be mindful of how those changes can potentially impact students when it comes to their decisions. So to start off, I'll start with some of the general eligibility requirements for post-graduation work permit. So how do a student become eligible for one if they want to work in Canada after completing school? So to apply for PGWP, students must complete a program study that's at least 8 months in length, leading to a degree, diploma, or certificate. And throughout their studies in that program, they need to be a full-time student during each academic semester of their program. Of course, there are some exceptions. For example, students may choose to study part-time during their final academic semester or scheduled academic break. And this really maintains to students who, let's say, they fail some courses and they want to get caught up with their studies. So let's say they failed a course in winter 2025 and summer is their break. If that course they're unsuccessful and it's offered in summer, they may choose to repeat those courses, failed courses during the summer to get caught up with their studies so that they can progress to the fall semester uninterrupted, and graduate on time. Another scenario could be possible that the student fails certain courses after the scheduled break or during previous semester, which forced them out of sync and extended their studies, unintentionally, right? Rather than having the student pay full-time international tuition fee every semester, if they only have a few courses left to complete, and they can all be completed during one semester, which also happens to be their last semester, they're permitted to study part-time during that last semester. But outside of that, student has to be a full-time student during all other academic terms of their program. And of course, without impact, another scenario where students will not be impacted when they're not enrolled full-time is if they're taking authorized leave from their studies covered by Huang in the earlier section of the presentation, right? There are certain times where students are caught in situations beyond their control. They may have to urgently return home because they have a family emergency, right? Family member could be sick. Family member may have passed away. We had one situation before where families, household community was burned down by a fire, and the student, family lost everything, and student had to urgently return home to support the family. We had a situation where the student's parents' store was robbed and their entire life was devastated. And of course, there are situations where students' children may have been, diagnosed with a learning disability and they have to separate study to care for the child. So there are many, many extenuating circumstances that can happen any point, right? During the semester, beginning semester, mid-semester, any point. And when situation occurs, students cannot study, stepping away from their study for the entire semester often tends to be the only choice. And of course, depending on the reason, IRCC recognizes it. And as long as students able to provide documentation, IRCC will usually accept it and have the student remain eligible for their post-graduation work permit. So at the end of the day, really all about documentation. For students to have the right documentation to present to the college to request the leave so that they can be approved, and having the ability to submit the same documents to the federal government or IRCC to advocate the reason why they're approved for leave. And of course, if meeting all these conditions and the students graduate, successfully complete their program, immigration also requires that their study permit was valid during 180 days, sometimes during 180 days after they complete their program and before they submit their PGWP application. And the reason why 180 days and not any other day is because that's the timeline when immigration allows students to apply for their work permit. Of course, for students who decide to return home after completing their program, they can apply for their post-graduation work permit from their home country anytime during that 180 days from when class finish. But if students want to apply for their PGWP from inside Canada and remain in Canada afterwards, they have to submit their PGWP application before their study permit expires rather than any time during 180 days. And that distinction is because study permit actually expire 90 days after the end of their studies or the expiry date printed on the student's document, whichever comes first. So I'll give an example. Let's pretend students finish the program in April 2025 and their and the expiry date on the study permit is December 2025. In this student situation, study permit expires 90 days from April. So their study permit actually expires in July, despite the expiry date on the document says December 2025. So the student actually have to apply for their PGWP before July 2025, even though they have that 180-day range provided by the federal government. So that often causes confusion for students. So it's very important for students to be mindful of their status and validity and decide how do they want to apply and ensure they're able to submit their application within the validity of their study permit. And of course, if the students have checked off all the eligibility marks and receive approval on their PGWP application, the length of their work permit will be calculated based on the length of their original completed program. And this is particularly important for students who think if they drag their studies out, they will get a longer work permit. For example, if they took them, let's say, 4 semesters to finish a 2-semester program, their work permit will still be calculated based on the original length of the program, which is 1 year, that regardless how long it takes for the student to complete the program. So despite the general rule, there have been several changes to PGWP, one of which is language requirements. So all international graduates had to submit their language examination result as part of PGWP application. But the main change is the introduction of the field of study requirement. And immigration type whether students need to meet that field of study requirement based on the credential they obtain, as well as when they applied for their study permit application. So if a student applied for their study permit before November 1st, 2024, there is no field of study requirement for the diploma or certificate program they complete. They can complete a diploma or certificate program in any discipline of their choice, regardless of the field of study, and remain eligible for PGWP. However, if our students apply for their study permit on or after November 1st, 2024, then the federal government requires them to have graduated from an eligible diploma or certificate program based on the field of study criteria. And often the field of study criteria is linked to programs or that will produce graduates to meet labor market gaps where there's expected long-term labor shortages, such as healthcare, STEM, transportation, just to name a few. And of course, that list is ever-changing, and IRCC often update that list, I believe, once a year, based on recent labor market trend. So of course, as the time progresses, certain programs who are not on the list now may be added in the future. And one example of that will be early childhood education. In December 17, I believe, IRCC added ECE to the field of study criteria, and all of our graduates since then, all of our international students who are pursuing ECE since then will be eligible for PGWP. So that list is not definitive. It's the changes are constant. So it's very important for us and to be mindful of that, and for our students to be mindful of that when selecting their program. And of course, despite all this, there are some exceptions to the rule, right? Sometimes, like Huang and Sanjay mentioned, if a student had to step away from their studies due to authorized leave circumstances, or they're academically unsuccessful and were required to withdraw, they have to extend their studies beyond their initial program completion date. In this situation, they will likely need a study permit extension. So if a student needs to file a study permit extension application and they're applying for an extension to complete the same program study as the study permit application made before November 1st, 2024, there's still no field of study requirements for PGWP. What does that mean? So one example would be students, let's say, started in culinary skills and then transferred into culinary management. If they need to extend their study permit for culinary management, and they apply for their study permit before November 1st, 2024 using the allowed substance for culinary skills, they're now extending their study permit for a new program study, and the field of study requirement will kick in at that extension application. On the contrary, if a student, let's say, studied culinary skills, but unsuccessful in their second semester, they were required to withdraw. And then they had to come back to repeat semester 2 culinary skills. And when they file extension, they're extending their permit to continue the very same program. Since there's no program change, they can continue to benefit under the old PGWP rules where there's no field of study requirement for the program they complete. So It's very tricky because it depends on many things. When the student filed their application, which program did they use to apply for that study permit? Are they continuing the same program? Have they changed program, right? So their entire academic history and their entire immigration history all play a crucial part in determining how program changes or how study permit extensions can impact their eligibility for a post-graduation work permit. And lastly, I would like to highlight one exception to all of this is that there are no field of study requirements for graduate bachelor degree, master degree, or doctoral degree at any institution, a designated learning institution, whether that's a university or colleges. So for Humber, all of our bachelor degrees are eligible for PGWP. And the other change is regarding program stacking for study permit obtained on or after November 1st, 2024. Program stacking refers to students doing two programs one after another. So students could be completing 2 one-year programs, and typically they can if they're eligible under the old rules, their work permit will be calculated based on the combined length of each program for up to 3 years. But since the new changes, field of study kicks in. So there are now certain different criteria for it. One example is what if students complete 2 PGWP eligible programs? So on or after November 1st, 2024, if the student completes 2 consecutive programs that are PGWP eligible, either under old or new rules, within 2 years of completion of the first program, then when they apply for PGWP, the duration of the work permit will be based on duration of both programs. And an example could be they complete their first program before November 1st, 2024, and then their second program meets the field of study requirements. In that case, both programs factor into PGWP calculation, and the student will get a work permit based on both programs. The second scenario is where students complete a first program that is not PGWP eligible, and the second one that is PGWP eligible. So on or after November 1st, 2024, if a student completes 2 consecutive programs where the first is not PGWP eligible, they will not benefit from program stacking when the duration of PGWP is determined. The duration of PGWP will be based only on duration of the PGWP eligible program. So let's say, for example, student starts the program in January 2025 and study 2 programs. Unfortunately, the first program did not meet the field of study requirement, or the program meets the field study requirement, but the students study part-time in the middle studies. And the second program, they meet all the criteria. Then only the second program will be eligible PGWP, and the student will get a work permit based on the length of the second program. And the third scenario is usually, and the most complicated one, is when students complete the first PGWP eligible program and the second one that is not PGWP eligible. So on or after November 1st, 2024, if a student completes 2 consecutive programs where the first is a PGWP eligible program and the second program is not, students will not benefit from program stacking when it comes to the duration of their PGWP. The duration of the work permit will be based on the duration of the PGWP eligible program. And the applicant or the student would have to apply for a PGWP within 180 days of receiving confirmation they have completed the PGWP eligible program. So one example of this scenario is, let's say students finish the first program, let's say in December 2024, and it's eligible PGWP based on all the rules. And then they start the second program. The second program could meet the field of study requirement, but it finished as a part-time student, or it may not meet the field of study requirement because program selection decisions. In those situations, the second student cannot get a work permit for the second program, and to even get a work permit, they have to apply for their PGWP within 180 days or 6 months from when they receive their graduation letter for the first program, the first PGWP eligible program. So this is where it gets really tricky, right? Depending on when the student finds out that the second program is not PGWP eligible, they might fall outside 180 days from finishing program 1 to even apply for the work permit. So the student may found themselves stuck in a situation where they studied 2 programs and ended up not getting a work permit because second program is not eligible and the first eligible program, by the time they applied, it's outside 180 days from when they graduate from the first program. So as you can see that the rules are very intricate and based on students' individual circumstances, the decision they make can heavily impact the outcome. And it won't, and often that impact would not hit the student until much later down the road. So now I would like to, given all that, I would like to give you a case scenario where the decision seems very harmless at first, but there are some concerns associated. So Sarah, our student, applied for a study permit in March 2023 and began architectural technology in fall 2023. Her current study permit is approved in September 2023 before all the PGWP rule change occurred and is valid until July 2026, right after the regular stream ends in April 2026. She is interested in the optional co-op stream for the work experience it offers to students and successfully received admission to the co-op stream after completing semester 3. She now needs to apply for a study permit extension and co-op work permit to complete the co-op program. Her goal is to gain valuable work experience after graduation and eventually apply for permanent residency. So based on this harmless scenario, what are the concerns? So for some, the immigration concern is that for students who are accepted into the architectural technology co-op stream, the co-op placements are 3 consecutive paid placements that will take place after semester 4. So students will be out on placement for essentially a year. In Sarah's situation, her program completion date will extend for additional year beyond the validity of her initial study permit in July 2026. She'll graduate in 2027. If Sarah switched into the co-op stream, she will need to apply for a study permit extension after November 1st, 2025 for a new program study because she will receive admissions sometime year 2025. Of course, following the extension application my apologies, should be November 1st, 2024. Or my apologies, a typo. November 1st, 2024, sorry. So after applying for a study permit after November 1st, 2024, this will subject her into the new postgraduate work permit rules, require her to graduate from a program that meets the field of study requirement. And currently, as of today, architectural technology does not meet the PGWP field of study requirements. So as mentioned earlier, IRCC updates the field of study program list based on long-term labor market shortages. And from now to 2027, at any point, immigration may potentially add architectural technology into that list. Upon students graduating from a co-op stream in 2027, if architectural technology is added to the field of study list, the student will be eligible for the work PGWP. However, if the architectural technology program is not added to the field of study list, Sarah will graduate from the co-op program but not be eligible to apply for a PGWP because she will graduate from a program that does not meet the field of study requirements. So what are some of the action steps given all the concern, right? It's very important for us practitioners to examine Sarah's overall situation. What are her future goals? Her study permit to determine if there will be any immigration-related concerns to her pursuing the co-op stream because it is a very important and valuable learning opportunity for students. Many students benefit heavily from engaging in the co-op stream, and they often successfully land in very high access jobs in their industry after graduation due to that relationship with the employer and having to have engage in those work and gaining those work experiences. But of course, as I mentioned, not every program with optional co-op stream is not PGWP eligible. Many of our FAST programs are in fact PGWP eligible based on field study requirements, and many students, international students in those programs will remain eligible for PGWP even if they transfer into optional co-op stream. So it really depends on the program and the field of study list. So based on all that, we usually need to provide all the available options to the student so that she have a choice in determining her future. One option, of course, is if she decides to return to the regular stream to remain her PGWP eligibility under the old rules, she'll be transferred back to the original program, which is a regular stream. She'll need to pass our courses, graduate on time, which is, before her study permit expires, apply for a PGWP on her current study permit, and she will remain eligible to get a 3-year work permit based on that. If the student decides to continue the co-op stream for the benefit that it offers, Humber will issue a support letter outlining the similarity between the regular stream and co-op stream to support a future PGWP application. Because for many programs, the main difference between regular stream and co-op stream are just the co-op terms. But the immigration officer who are not familiar with Humber program might not be aware of that. So to best advocate and support a student, for students who do choose to continue optional co-op stream, Humber will provide the support letter to help advocate the student's case. But ultimately, the final decision will be at the discretion of the IRCC officers. And lastly, the third option is see if there's any opportunity for students to pathway into a relevant degree program. So Humber do have a very well thought out pathway program, pathway stream, where potentially there might be opportunity for a student to pathway into degree program after completing the diploma program. And because currently all degree programs are exempt from the field of study criteria, if there's that opportunity, then students could potentially pursue the co-op stream and then pathway into degree stream and use the degree to apply for our PGWP, and she will still be eligible for a 3-year work permit if meeting all other eligibility requirements. So there are options for her. So given all that, is there any questions from the audience? Feel free to unmute yourself or type in the chat. Juan, Sanjay, any questions from the audience?
No, I don't see anything in the Q&A chat box.
Okay. So I'll probably give everyone just a few minutes just to type in their responses in case there are any questions. And I do want to mention that, sorry, let me go back to the PowerPoint. And I do really just want to take this opportunity to say that, the list for field study list, again, it's ever evolving. It's not set, like, we don't know what changes will happen to that list, right? Because labor market demand is always changing. But for students, right, given the investment they're making, their time, tuition, right, uncertainty is often very difficult for them to navigate. So often students, cannot afford to take risks because they don't have that room, they don't have that time, they don't have that financial resource. So often, whether that's program stacking, whether that's, changing programs, for example, less internal transfers between programs, there's so much more to consider. And often nowadays that we have to look at even more creative ways within the government regulation to see, what can we do as an institution or as faculty, as advisors, what can we do collectively to support our students, to find solutions that may not exist in the past, but is still within the boundary of law, so that we can help our students advocate. And I'll give one example. I know it wasn't covered in the slide, but I feel like now's a good opportunity to share it. One example is, let's say, students who perhaps have a medical emergency. So 2 years ago, we had a student where she was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and she had to undergo surgery, chemo, therapy. She had to undergo many, many things to fight for survival. And because given the cost of treatment, she has to enroll in at minimum 1 course to be a full-time student. Oh, sorry, minimum 1 course to maintain her health insurance. Now, she's a part-time student, sorry, but she needs to enroll 1 course to maintain her health insurance. So I had no choice, right, in order for her to be able to afford her treatment, she registered part-time with just one course. And she actually successfully completed her program while undergoing, all of her cancer treatment and surgery. So, student was a very brilliant student. Upon graduation, when she applied for PGWP, despite providing all that, despite providing proof that, she couldn't enroll full-time because she was undergoing surgery and chemotherapy at this very same time, IRCC refused the PGWP application on the ground that she was part-time in the middle of study. So it's a little bit harsh from the government side. It wasn't, we didn't expect that. So to help her fight her case that, Humber produced, issued additional support letter outlining, that she wasn't part-time because she has to. She was part-time because it was in the best interest of the student, in the best interest of her health, and that it was for her to be able to balance her academic obligations as well as obligation to herself, to be able for her own health, and that it was to also to ensure that students remain compliant their study permit condition, which is to stay enrolled at Humber, their school, until they graduate. So we provide that letter. Students now appealing the decision. She has not informed us of the decision yet because it is a long appeal process. But again, that's one possible solution that we can potentially consider to try to help support the students. And of course, given the complexity and that every student situation is unique in their own sense, and the solution that may work for one student may not necessarily work for another student, we have to think about, how as an institution, collectively, how can we collaborate together through our shared responsibility to support the student? So if there's no question, I'm just going to move on to our final section topic, which is recommendations. So given all the case studies we examined during today's presentation, as well as some of the example that was, that we discussed during chat, when guiding students on their potential options to build success, as practitioners, we need to inform students of all the potential risks associated with each decision and help them understand how immigration policies may affect them. It may affect them now, how it may affect them, down the road. Most importantly, how changes in academic plan may affect their future, and changes, when they put on leave, how that may affect their ability now and when they graduate. If they were academically unsuccessful or if they've engaged in academic misconduct, how does that impact their status now and how may affect them in the future with their future immigration plan? Of course, for many students who are interested in pursuing the optional co-op stream, for those programs that have that, while those opportunities offer students with valuable work experience, programs that are currently not on the PGWP eligible list may limit students' ability to gain valuable Canadian work experience after graduation if they're found to be not eligible PGWP under the new rules. Given the unclarity in some of the policy guidelines and the ongoing changes that the government is announcing, it's even more crucial to stay informed about any updates to the postgraduate work permit eligibility list of the eligible occupation and programs that lead to those professions, and to consider alternative programs that may potentially align with their career goals. So again, depending on when students apply for their study permit, what program they use to apply for that, did they ever change programs, did they ever change schools, right? And of course, when their current program will expire in comparison to their current study permit validity, we often to think about, does the current plan make sense? And often we need to ask the student, do they want a postgraduate work permit? Because for some students, that might not be their goal. It's easy for us to assume every student wants a PGWP, but that's never the case. We often have students whose original plan was to get a Canadian education experience and then return to their home country to build their career in their home country. So for those students, right, whether they graduated from a program meets the field of study requirement may be irrelevant to them. So in those situations, engaging in optional co-op stream would be beneficial for them after graduation when they build their career in their home country, because they would have gained valuable work experience as a student. But for students who want to get a post-graduation work permit and work in Canada after they complete their studies, being mindful of how their decisions can impact those plans is critical. Therefore, it is essential for students to always stay updated on immigration policies and seek guidance from international student advisors and immigration specialists. This will help them make informed decisions that best align with their career aspirations as well as immigration goals. And through all the case studies we have shared today, you can see that there are many intricacies involved. And any small changes in their situation would impact any potential options they may have available to them. So the best thing to do is always refer them to us so that we can sit down the student, assess their situation at an individual basis relevant to the government policy, to see what are the legal remedies available to them that's also within Humber's policy as well. And of course, as a community, we all have a part to play, whether it's to help the student create a new academic plan and rollout that help the student maintain full time, or connecting the student with other available resources on campus to ensure their academic success in their program. So with that, I want to thank everyone. And if you have any student who wants to connect with us, there are many ways to connect with us. Students can come in person and meet with us at our International Center. So North Campus located on LRC second floor, Lakeshore Campus located in room H108, and we're seeing students Monday to Friday between 10 a.m. to noon and from 2 p.m. to 4. If students prefer to connect with us online, they can always contact us by submitting their inquiries to the contact form. One suggestion we have for students, always tell them to write their full situation, be as detailed as possible, because we can only support them based on what they inform us. So the more we know, the better we can assess their situation and provide more precise suggestions based on their unique situation. Again, I want to thank everyone for joining us for today's presentation. I want to thank my colleague Huang and Sanjay, as well as the organizing committee for giving us the opportunity to share our experience with you. So thank you, everyone. And of course, feel free to turn on your mic if there are any other question that wasn't covered before. Thank you.